All right, here we go again. Buckle up. So, during the first Trump presidency, I, at a certain point, uh, realized some things about New Mexico. Although, again, there were corrupt Republicans that were part of what was attacking my life. And if they stayed away, I probably never would have figured this out because Hashem would have had me do something different. It's along the lines of Luke 11, or Luke 10, should I say, Luke 10. And I'll have to look at Luke 11 because it might be Luke 11 also. That's the New Testament scripture that might say here. Luke 10 different does. So, they were stroking Trump and going, "Wow, your economy picked this up." It was like within 6 months or something, maybe a year the most. And I said, "They're just stroking you, Trump. That's heroin money." Back then, the fentanyl wasn't as big, but was coming on. Really hit on during the Biden years. During the Trump years, we were still in the heroin economy versus the fentanyl economy. What that essentially does is make every drug an opiate. So cocaine is an opiate in the United States because you're not going to get pure cocaine. Maybe if you're a Saudi businessman or something, or maybe you got the direct connect to Venezuela. So again, you have to realize people using cocaine in the United States are being addicted to fentanyl opiates. That's what happened with that truck driver, the plow truck driver. He's going into distress because of a fentanyl overdose. No drugs like cocaine are okay. It is their fault. It's not supposed to be here. Bunch of weirdos when it comes to law and order. All of these, even if they care not for themselves. These people in Minnesota care not even for themselves. Family members dropping over like flies, and they're protecting the source of the narcotics. And there's no doubt the massive number of foreigners in your country, in your state. I mean, it's a country. They wish they were a country. I think they were going to vote to secede. I didn't back it when Texas said it, and I don't back it when you said it. So again, they're dropping like flies in Minneapolis, and they're backing the people that are bringing in. The massive number of people hides the operation. If DEA has to pick through 1,000 immigrants instead of 90,000 immigrants, it's a lot easier to find where it's coming from other countries. I know this for a fact. And it's based in foreign national transportation networks with some Americans interspersed, and they'll go to prison too. They always bring that up. But some Americans are doing it. But I told you that there was a heroin economy. So what I didn't know, it was larger than simply New Mexico. Well, what it's doing is a fake economy. It's not real money, and it eventually destroys everything. Well, the more people you addict to narcotics, your workforce is gone. But who comes in? The immigrant. What's the immigrant doing? Laundering money, making runs for narco bosses. But I'm a hardworking carpenter. Man, right. Also, carpenters. Let's say it's just a car. I'm just a carpenter. But who do you do work for? People with the narco money. You can't afford that carpenter. Only the narco bosses can. And the sex traffickers and the fraudsters and the money launderers. So again, it's a deep rooted effort, which I call RICO, in these foreign communities. Each one has a RICO boss. They're even paying protection and things like that. And if they come up, if somebody with the juice comes up and says, "I get your daughter," you don't give up your daughter. Guess what happens? You don't get nothing. Well, they even kill you and say it with an action, or you just disappear. So again, it'd be interesting to see the percentage of people that are part of the anti-ice that use narcotics, including cannabis. It's a narcotic. And of course, there's other things also: narcotics distribution, sex traffickers. Fraudsters. That's what was happening in the Somali community. They stopped filming them over there. That was getting looking bad. Yeah, you can watch when when it goes like bad, like it's not working for the Democratic Party, then the media drops the narrative. So they used to film all that stuff in the Somali community, but it looked bad. And of course, they're related to fraudsters. They're fighting for their fraudster money. So essentially, the Fed, this is the other part of it. The Fed doesn't know how to look at the economy because the economy is actually slower for the non-criminal economy and for the U.S. citizen, which just means what's happening to this money? It's being sent overseas. That's why Trump said he was going to tax it. I don't know if he did or not. So it's being sent to these other nations. You're not getting an accurate description of the economy and what's causing everything. I mean, just so what you have to do, one category has to be public funds fraud. And you have to develop the totality of what you believe the public, only what you detect, but public funds fraud. Well, this is going to tell you what percentage of the economy is actually the criminal economy. Because you have to break it down to realize, what is my real economy? What money are we actually making? What money remains here for the U.S. citizen, and what's being stolen and shipped to other nations? Ill-gotten gains at a minimum, if not outright stolen. That's why I've been telling you for a while. I couldn't see it either. I said, I know we can't see what's going on here. This is not the old economy that we had. There's other factors, and crypto is part of it also. But crypto is down. You know why? Who uses crypto? Crooks. But what's going to happen? Well, we should see these people on the streets start diminishing. Narcotics use dropping. People go to rehab and it sticks and it works. And it doesn't cost us as much money to police. And then what happens? Once we get to that point, you build more houses. Now, New York, let Trump come in here. He'll show you where the housing is for the unhoused. He'll find every one of them crooks. He'll kick them out of their house. And they'll go back to their country. And then your unhoused people will have houses. At least apartments or co-ops. See? Very simple way to fix this. No, God gave me it yesterday or something. The number of, no, it wasn't somebody nice, it was God. Even if they gave it to God, they may have said, "Here, God, here's the stats. Give it to more." Hashem said that in New York, there's a large portion of the apartments, people can afford it, are owned or rented by narco immigrants, sex trafficking immigrants, fraudster immigrants. Right. And if Trump goes in there and pulls them out, the rents will drop additionally. Right. And then they'll find housing for the unhoused. That's who's living in your unhoused housing. Same thing, Minnesota. Same thing, Chicago. Same thing, LA. But the rents are starting to drop, and the prices of housing. I mean, I don't think it's avoidable. Elon, it's one of the few times. I guess we agree a little bit, but it's one of the few times Elon and I became vocal and agreed on something. We said, don't buy a house now. You're stupid. The problem is they had to buy it because their credit was going to get that's how they got the money. They didn't pay their rent. They saved up all that money and bought a house, but they had to get into the house before their credit got trashed. So they all bought whatever the price of the house was, because otherwise they weren't going to be able to get it because of their credit. Possibly, have their money seized, and maybe they thought, but garnished, whatever. Right. Well, they didn't care as long as they could keep. Usually, you can keep your house in a bankruptcy if you structure it a certain way, or actually you have to sell. So again, it didn't make any sense, but I'm sure that's part of it. Well, why did we have all those houses purchased? Because people had down payments. How did they get the down payment? They didn't pay the rent. So again, Trump's trying to protect the class of people that really earned it. Right. My wife and I had some economic troubles or financial troubles, and I don't hold it against people with financial troubles. But when you're playing a certain game, then you're playing a certain game. So they didn't pay the rent. Then when they had to pay the rent and they bought a house, then they ran the credit cards up. So again, so we have a lot of stuff. Running the credit cards up isn't the worst thing, and Trump's had issue with bankruptcy, so he understands that. But there's a point of no return on all of that, where there is a certain level of culpability beyond the standard culpability. And again, that's the same thing with the economy. So we have differing, we have the narco economy, we have the sex trafficking economy, and we have the fraudster, public funds fraudster. We have the what's the other scams? Some of the other scams, the Ponzi economy. So we have to look at that. The Fed has to begin to look at that because it's so big. And it's going to shrink probably under Trump, but it's big. So we need to look at that and see, okay, where's this money going? What percentage of the economy is that? Because that's what's going on. So again, it transfers into real estate. It transfers into Best Buy purchasing everything not on sale, and who cares what it costs? But that's not really well for the nation. Why? Because they're developing drug addicts. And they're stealing to launder their money. They steal businesses, and they got crime organizations to strong arm you, and they pay off cops to say you're a pedophile or a rapist, and you get nothing. And our people get everything. But it's not a real business. It's a launder business. So there's no way for the Fed to calculate without calculating all of that. So they're going to have to figure out how much of the economy is actually criminal economy. And that could be because of the chain reaction of a criminal economy. But see, the reality is they're going, but see, isn't that important? No, you destroyed Mexico and you destroyed Mexico's economy. Even though you're richer, there's a lot of people that aren't. And of course, the prices are skyrocketing because you don't give a shit what you pay, narco. You don't give a shit what you pay, sex trafficker. So what they do is they destroy over time. They destroyed the normal economy. So Biden didn't build anything. Obama may not have built anything in the end either, because it may have been built on narco. And I said that before. I believe when CEOs, I even accused Trump. I'll admit to that. But CEOs went broke. They sold drugs. Well, you want me? Something's coming in. Yeah, it's just some bullshit. Doesn't make sense. That's probably them just disrupting. So the Fed has to look deeper, and again, it's going to have to use the Justice Department. It's going to have to use labor. No, money's not money because these businesses are fake businesses. It's narco money. So to create the narco money, you got to addict. Sex trafficking, same kind of thing, which destroys the rest of our country. They're trying to make us Mexico. Again, they don't have a problem with Mexico, but they're not in power in Mexico. So they're going to come here and they're going to take power, and they're okay with crime then. Who cares? Yeah, we'll beat your family up. That's the way they are, really. Oh, that kid looks great, doesn't he? But Nazis had kids, and they elevated them up above everybody's kids and made them more important. I know it's kind of what you see as a reverse, but it's not. They're very ruthless people, and they give a shit about their neighbor, unless their neighbor's from their home country and they're part of the scam. You're not going to do here, Democrats, what they did in Europe. You're going to get your ass waxed for the next 3 years, at least. That's what they're doing here, what they did in Europe. Start arresting people. Oh, I can't believe you're doing this. I mean, people are so horrible. They gave us $1 million in bribes just in Minnesota alone last year. That's what it is. You don't have money to bribe, but they, you know what? You would probably bribe them if you had the money, right? No, you would, but you would at least, there would be an economy. They would have more money. You would have more money. There'd be less crime. They don't care because they live in gated communities. That's the bottom line, or a gated property, right? Where they travel with a security detail. But again, Elon and I said, don't buy a house. And you bought a house. Because nobody buys a house when the prices are up. I mean, massively up. There's no way it would ever maintain. I'm surprised it stayed up that long. But I guess it was narco money under Biden that was buying them all. Right? You can't buy it, American, because you ain't got the narco money. It's for like monopoly money. It don't matter. It just keeps coming. So now we're getting kicked out of their homes. And they were showing videos. Oh, this is the house in the life I built. Oh, we have to leave it. And then Americans going, how'd you get that house? So the media stopped showing the lives they were living. We all saw it. Some of them drive trucks that cost just as much as everybody's house. Like the place I'm living in costs as much as some of their trucks. I rent it, but if I were to buy it, it'd probably cost me about as much as their truck. That's just their truck, not their house and stuff like that. So Americans have been arrested, have been gone bankrupt. They don't care. Oh, you care when what? It's the same fucking people. When an immigrant has a trouble in their little district, they go, "Oh, you're discriminating." They don't go help crooks in their district. They only help crooks of color, and especially foreign national crooks. Because the boss goes, "You help my crooks, I give you money, and I won't extort you about that little kid you had sex with walls while you were a teacher." That's the type of people the Democrats are. Because why? Because they try to make us that. They try to put that on us. The more they do it, you see it's them. They're obsessed with making everybody else the sex criminal and the pedophile. Seen it for years. Proved it in the media. Right. How about that for Ravel Magic? Whoa. You still got those spread your legs federal agents who are now in the private sector working for the Democrats, saying, "Oh, they're all pedophiles. They're all having sex." Well, just slow your sex machine down a bit there, bitch. Right. And watch it disappear. Well, federal agencies are full of coverings of witches, male and female. Of course, Hashem will send Raziel. So Jim, I'll go back to the story. So Jim Spicer, back then I was a Baptist, didn't know anything. So Jim Spicer starts talking about his grandson. Nickname was Dookie. And he says, Dookie, we're talking, he says, Dookie's got them Pokemon cards. Oh, back then, everybody in the Baptist churches and all those kind of churches, oh, Pokemon's the devil. So about a year or two later, I figure out Pokemon is, or maybe like less than a year, but I couldn't get back to Jim after that to explain it to him. Pokemon is actually partially how the world works if you understand what it's saying. It's metaphysics. So Pokemon would actually teach you metaphysics. So the question is, do the preachers know that? And are the preachers hiding that from the lay people in the church? That there is a power scheme and a metaphysics? Because that's what they did to Rabbi Yeshua's stuff. They took all the reality out of it. Said, give us the 10%. And they curse you off. Go, I don't know why you can't get ahead, sinner. Because you're a devil preacher. That's why. Now they sit on billion-dollar empires. I don't know what's all wrong with you. We're having great life over here. Of course, Jesus said they'll hate you like they hate me, and they did hate John Smith. Or Joseph Smith, should I say. John Smith is somebody else. I think he married Pocahontas or something. Well, no, I'm appropriating. I better get away from that. You ever notice that? When they do it, they're multicultural. This is another scam they got, and they use it on me. When they do it, they're multicultural, they're diverse. But you do it, and they don't like you, then you're appropriating. You see, they have a term that actually it's the same activity, but for their people it's this, and for you it's that. So again, I explained about social credit system, and they're using that, but it's corrupt. That's how I knew the social credit system in China was corrupt, because there's an unofficial social credit system here, and it's corrupt. You bribe a politician, your social credit goes up. Oh, they're great people. You don't have money to bribe a politician. Who's that? He's a nobody. So again, it's going to take time to totally fix the economy. And I was in receipt of the information. Well, we're going to wait for the tax return period first, and then after that, again, hopefully by the spring summer, they give a. I'll see what my tax return is, refund, and I'll let you know if I think it's great. I should get something, but we'll see how it compares. No, I could do this as a rich man. I'd go ask everyday people stuff like I used to. I'd go to the stores and ask everyday people stuff about how their life was doing, any problems in their life. That helped me speak to the government on what was needed. But they started paying them because they didn't have much money, because the narco economy took over, the sex trafficking economy took over. Here's money, and the government came in. Here's informant funds. Just don't tell them I told you to do that. Tell them you did it for this. Anyway, you're sworn to secrecy. Best criminal enterprise. We swear to secrecy. With the power of the federal government. That's really where they are. So again, that whole idea is I'm not a racist. I'm the guy that probably pushed the DACA forward. But again, there's abuse, and then there's legitimate program. There's nothing wrong with DACA. If we went back to that time period, nobody had a problem with it. But then you want to go crazy and do this crazy shit and forget U.S. citizens and promote narcotics distribution, sex trafficking, public welfare fraud at the gross domestic product of Trinidad and Tobago. Right. Preach it, brother. Right. I don't know who's in there. I got spirits in my apartment, in my house now. So the sun is out, so it's starting to melt, and it's up to like 20-something degrees. How about that, Phil? You nasty woodchuck, groundhog, whatever it is. Schmuck. Couldn't come out and not see your shadow, could you? Hey, he set it up. That groundhog set it up. Him and them Punxsutawney people. Think they're funny. Russians probably ban them. All right, so the big thing is the Fed has to figure this out. Traditional calculation. Well, I think, tell you the truth, now I'm thinking about it. In a while, it's not going to matter. If Trump keeps going, the economy is probably it's going to have some issues here or there, but it's going to run. It's going to start being decipherable. Well, because what you're seeing in our economy isn't necessarily a well economy. It's just a bunch of drug money, economic fraud, payments to foreign countries that come back as kickbacks, all that kind of stuff. And that's making us look healthier than we are. So you would have actually probably dropped the interest rate had these people not been here. And I mean, it probably goes back, a while. I mean, Trump didn't even know this was happening. I was just beginning to figure out that it was happening in New Mexico because he said how their economy was up, and he said it was his economic plan. I said, I think they're stroking you, Trump. I think that's a heroin economy. Right. Well, because you have to plan it, or the economy gets a bubble. Now, Biden took that bubble that did exist, and he threw money at it. But what he never did was set up the real economy, because a lot, the narco economy, again, stealing from the federal government funds. I mean, if you really look at money that went out to the Somali fraud, went out to the immigrant fraud, the other immigrant fraud, and all that, and you looked at if you divided that in U.S. citizens, what would it be? I understand about honestly taking care of people. I've taken care of people honestly for a long time. I'm not like a Democrat that plays games with it, makes $1 billion off it, or really could, uses it to rule people. Either you vote for us or you don't get funds, or you don't talk to that person over there that we tell you not to talk to because the drug boss is related to the welfare fund dole out. Right. So we need to get everything back to square one, and that's where the deportation comes in. I mean, there's going to be immigrants here during the whole time. Again, they're gonna fight because they plan to take over the United States and rape our money and rape our women and all that kind of shit. No matter whether she's a woman that's a Texas a Republican or Democrat, congresswoman, congressman, whatever it is, they had the supremacy plan on. We will capture your flag, and you'll get nothing. Believe me, they're supremacists. Immigrants have become supremacists. That's not what the Torah, not the type of immigrant. It's a form of conquest. Right. You have to understand, in ancient Israel, they wouldn't let these people in. They'd be arrested, probably even executed. Right. Ancient Israel wasn't nice for bad people. I'm telling you that right now. I was shocked when I first woke up because I'm trying to go like totally peaceful. And Deep State screwed that up, or I'd be somewhere else, just quietly with a wife, going to church, going peace, 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 like a Friends or something, Quaker. Not even a liberal. I wouldn't even. I was using some mouthwash. Not even a liberal. I wouldn't even be a liberal. Would have been totally disconnected from it. You all screwed that up, so don't complain about it. Well, grabbed some of that money back from the operators you all paid. Right? They cost you that money. They cost you that effort for nothing. Made merchandise of them. They're all bullshit. So I'm looking at this image of Solomon, and he's got this hammer club or something, and I think it's like a wood cutting or something. He's beating this guy to death as part of a sentence because he was a judge. Wasn't nice in ancient Israel. So again, I understand taking care of the less fortunate, but if you turn around and you're a predator and a locust eating up the fabric of our nation, then that's something different. Israel would not have accepted you. Yeshua ben David would not have accepted, because who are you then? A multitude of people, including the person that tells, who are you to judge another person's sermon? I don't judge you. Whatever the scripture said judged you. And we're way past the day of Yeshua ben David. Of course, you all took over churches. They're part of the money laundering. and part of the narcotics distribution. I don't know what Trump's going to do because some of them are Republican uh, donors too. So again, I don't, not as big as the Democratic Party problem. That's the scale. Oh, we're conservative, but yet, you know, their little life is conservative. But you know, they're backing narcos and sex traffickers because they're part of the thing. You let this person in, you don't let that person. Well, I know you got narcos. I know you got sex crimes. Never would have come up if I just let me be. I probably wouldn't even be in your church right now. I probably just would have moved and said, "That's it. I just ain't got it in me to go to church." But maybe that's because you were killing me with curses every time I went in your church. If you didn't, it would have been a different life. So I'm down in life and I'm having medical problems, and I thought, well, let me try to get to a church or something, see if I can connect with people again. And they cursed me while I went to it. Can you imagine how God feels about it? Imagine how Joseph Smith feels about it. They were effing me off just so they can get me to do what they wanted me to do, which include probably be a shooter in their church. Get paid millions if I did that. Millions each. Right. That's how it works, man. Whole world's a stage, a scam. Got these narcos and these sex traffickers paying the LDS guy that's Mexican or Honduran or Guatemalan to tell the LDS to do this, and then they get the cash. But it's just an LDS preacher that came up and asked me to do it, or president, whatever they call them. Right. But the money comes from the narcos, the sex traffickers, the Somali fraudsters. But we building temples. That scam's been on this planet as long as temples have been on this planet. Building temples to God when you're actually building temples to Satan. And then calling Satan God and worshiping Satan in the name of God. Well, you all stay peaceful. It isn't only the LDS. They wanted to treat me like a redheaded Joseph Smith, so they get it. They'll be the, what do they call that? The whipping pose or whatever that thing is. What do they call that? They'll be the redheaded stepchild. That's all.